Hey, what is up everybody? This is Steve Reach coming to you here today talking about the ongoing rumor that Rick Rude will be going into the WWE Hall of Fame at Wrestlemania 33. Honestly, my good friend Gemini888 has been sort of running a Facebook fan page for Rick Rude, trying to get Rick Rude into the WWE Hall of Fame. I think he's been running this page, honestly, for about 2 years. Back in about 2010, when I first started making videos on YouTube, it was sort of a thing that followed me for a long time. Was that in one of my videos I said that Rick Rude didn't deserve to be a Hall of Famer for the one reason that everyone wanted to put him in to the Hall of Fame, because at the time he was one of the most famous dead wrestlers, and everyone was sort of using the equation that WWE will always put in two high quality real Hall of Fame wrestlers into the Hall of Fame. They always have one female wrestler. They always have a tag team. They always have a foreigner. They always have a dead wrestler, and they always have a celebrity. And I always felt like the only reason why people were selecting Rick Rude to be a Hall of Famer was that they knew that Rick Rude had passed away, and that he was no longer with us. It wasn't that I was taking anything away from Rick Rude as being, a real wrestler. He was a guy that got a lot of heat. He was a guy that honestly was a really good worker. In my mind, I think that his career was honestly really cut short by his injury. I can't remember if he hurt his back or he hurt his neck, but for some reason I think that he broke his back when he was wrestling Sting in Japan, when they were wrestling on a platform ring, and he took a bump out of the ring, he fell onto his back, and he was never able to work again. When he passed away, I believe in 1998, he was actually training to make a return to wrestling, where he had been out of wrestling for so long, but because of his little short stint, being a manager for DX, and then coming back and being a manager for the NWO, mostly working with Kurt Hennig, he just felt like if everybody else was doing it, he might as well get back into the ring, and he might as well get back to working. At that time, business was booming. I'm sure that he felt that he could have made more money as a performer than as a manager, and he probably just wanted to cash in. Seeing how everybody else was using WCW at the time. In a short span of time, I think in the year of 1997 alone, Rick Rude worked for all three major companies in WWE, where Rick Rude had made his return from being away from wrestling for quite a while. Began being a on-air commentator for ECW, which then launched him making a return to WWF, coming in and being with DX, and then shortly after the Montreal Screwjob, splitting ties with WWF. I don't know if he was on a contract or if he just flat out quit. He showed up on the same night as he was airing on Monday Night Raw on WCW, because of the fact that Monday Night Raw would be live one week, and then at the live taping, tape the next week, have that in the can. And Rick Rude used that to his advantage, knowing that Eric Bischoff would use anything in the world to take a shot at Vince. I'm not saying that Eric didn't want Rick Rude, but I'm sure he wanted him more and probably overpaid for the fact that Rick Rude was able to say that he was going to be a major player on the next week's episode of Monday Night Raw, and if he showed up on Nitro, it would expose the fact that Raw was taped, even though Bischoff for years had been giving away the results of taped Raws on live Nitros. Rick Rude's career, honestly, I can honestly tell you that I'm a real big Rick Rude fan. I like him. I do back him as being a Hall of Famer. I don't want to put him in just for the reason that he is dead. But, when I look at it, I can honestly tell you that there's parts of Rick Rude's career that I wish I knew more about. It's only recently that I found out that he worked in world-class championship wrestling. I know that everyone came from somebody in the days of WWF. He just didn't pop up, and have a feud against the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 5, leading to them having the pose down, I believe, at the Royal Rumble, having the matches at SummerSlam. people just don't show up out of thin air. They got to come from somewhere. But it wasn't until I watched the Heroes of World Class Championship Wrestling and learned that there was a disagreement between Fritz von Erich and the NWA at the time, where he basically felt that he should, be a bigger part of the puzzle of what was going down, and he wanted to have, one of the Von Erichs be the world champion, and they basically split ties because of the fact that they pulled out of the NWA. They no longer had that NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Rick Rude at the time held, which I believe was called the American Wrestling Championship, something close to that. And when they pulled out, that belt became their world championship, because that was the only belt that they had. Even though it was sort of treated as like a United States Championship or a United States title would be for Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, it automatically got bumped up to the world title. Flair had a run with it. He didn't hold it honestly that long before he dropped it, but he will always be in history the first world-class champion, the guy that they had there in World-Class Championship Wrestling, the first World Heavyweight Champion for that place. From there, Rick Rude would work for Jim Crockett before heading on over and working for WWF. I think everyone will always remember him for, basically having a different, different insult for every city, whether that's like Cincinnati Sweat Hogs or anything like that. You're just basically trying to say something, knowing that it's going to have a reaction from every guy inside of the arena, basically saying, I need you guys to just sit down and shut up while I take my robe off and I do my little dance for you guys, and give all your ladies sitting next to you a few seconds of excitement that you're never going to give them. In the WWF, I think everyone will always remember him as being famous for the Ultimate Warrior main event of, I believe that would be SummerSlam. I think that would be 1990, when Warrior won the championship from Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 7. They didn't do the rematch. Some people thought that they would do that at WrestleMania 7. They ended up scrapping that idea because they didn't like the idea of going babyface versus babyface. But Ultimate Warrior had never really had a real feud with anybody, so they had to fall back on the WrestleMania 5 match, where Rick Rude had been, I believe, the only person in WWF at that time to beat the Ultimate Warrior due to Bobby Heenan grabbing Ultimate Warrior's boot, tripping him, Rick Rude falling on top of him, and then, if you can understand, Warrior's legs were hanging out of the ring. Bobby Heenan put all of his weight onto the Warrior's boots, making sure that he was not able to kick his legs, not able to kick out. 1, 2, 3. Rick Rude wins the big match. I think that was where he won the Intercontinental title. Or no, I think Rude was the Intercontinental Champion. It's been a long time since I watched WrestleMania 5, and honestly right now, because I'm stuttering over this, it needs to be pretty soon that I watch it again. But he would work for them for a while before splitting ties and going to work for WCW. In WCW, he honestly probably got one of the best runs in the business, where he was actually treated like he was a main event guy, getting to hold the title. But throughout this time was sort of the period when Ric Flair had left WCW to go to work for Vince at WWF. So it's always sort of been looked at as if it was him filling that void. It came down to it. I think Flair was actually able to come back, and they were actually able to have some matches. I think Flair was only gone for the WWF for 2 years. But of course, in '94, Rick Rude's career was cut short because of his injury over in Japan, wrestling against Sting. And we never saw what it was. But when it comes down to it, the easiest way to put it is, because of Koko B. Ware, whoever Vince McMahon wants to put into the Hall of Fame, Vince McMahon is going to put in the Hall of Fame. And, I'm sure there's other people that you can put out there, but the easiest person to point to me, is Koko B. Ware. To me, the breaking point of when the Hall of Fame became not, I have to go. I know that there's guys that I want to see get put in, and I would make sure that I would not miss for the world, whether if that's Undertaker, whether if that's The Rock, the Triple H, Vince, I wasn't going to call him the Triple H, Triple H, Vince McMahon. Those are some big names going to the Hall of Fame that I don't care who they put in with them. I will sit through it to make sure I see them go in and don't want to miss their induction. But to me, honestly, it was Rikishi. When Rikishi got put into the Hall of Fame, that's when I just said, I don't need to see this stuff anymore. It's just getting to the point where I think it's becoming over the point of being a joke. And some people had their breaking point before I did. They put the damn thing on the DVD. They put the damn thing on the network. You don't need to be there. There's other things in town that are going on at the same time. Wrestlemania weekend that I think are much more fun. Like we skipped last year's Hall of Fame and we went to the WrestleCon Super Show. 5 stars. I thought it was awesome. Maybe the show ran a little long, and that was about it. Maybe they didn't need to have the intermission, but all in all, I honestly felt like I got my money's worth, and I honestly felt like if I would have went to the Hall of Fame, I would have fallen asleep for the 3rd year in a row. And it is what it is. But when the guys get put in, when the guys get their little deal on Monday Night Raw, when they give them that promo of how good their career is, and they show the highlights, it makes you proud that you're a wrestling fan and that you saw these guys actually go out there and wrestle. Rick Rude was a damn good professional wrestler. He had one of the best bodies in his sport, and I'm glad I was cheering for him. So we'll see what goes on with this. Maybe it'll go down on Monday Night Raw this week, or maybe it'll be upcoming soon. As of right now, I think the only person that we know going into the Hall of Fame is DDP, another guy that I think really does deserve it after Jake the Snake and Razor Ramon both went in WrestleMania 30 weekend. I really thought that DDP was going to get the call for WrestleMania 31, but it hasn't happened yet, so it's probably going to happen this year, and I'll see you guys down the road.